All right, picture this. You're standing there staring out across a massive, bone-dry, dusty desert. I mean, it's just sand for miles and miles as far as you can see. It looks completely harsh, right? Totally empty. And yet, somehow, right out of this endless ocean of sand, one of the absolute greatest, most mind-blowing civilizations in all of human history just sprang up. We're talking about ancient Egypt, a place of giant monuments, all-powerful rulers, and brilliant inventions that lasted for, get this, nearly 3,000 years.
So, here is the big mystery we're investigating today. How exactly did a barren, dusty desert produce 4,500-year-old giant pyramids and perfectly preserved bodies? How did they survive? Actually, scratch that. How did they thrive in such a brutal environment? That is the massive puzzle we're going to solve together. But real quick, before we start digging in the sand, let me just give a shout out to the creator of this explainer. This whole journey was produced by Waqas Ahmed Shah. He's an educator and an AI agents and automation builder for educators, traders, and startups over in Karachi, Pakistan. He's the one who gathered all these awesome clues for us to follow. Okay, back to the adventure. Are you ready to play history detective and solve the absolute greatest puzzle of the ancient world? We're going to look at the facts, follow the evidence, and uncover the ancient life hacks that made Egypt so legendary. Let's do this. Mystery number 1. The desert oasis. How did they survive in the sand? Well, the answer actually flows right through the middle of the country. I'm talking about the mighty River Nile. Without this river, ancient Egypt literally wouldn't exist. Every single year, the Nile would flood. Now, normally a flood sounds like a disaster, right? But for the Egyptians, it was total magic. When the water went back down, it left behind this stuff called silt. Silt is this super rich, dark mud. It completely transformed the dry, crackly ground into the absolute perfect farmland. It was basically nature's ultimate life hack. Thanks to that mud, they could grow all their food right there on the riverbanks. And let's look at how fast this all happened with the rise of a kingdom. Because the farming was so good, small villages started popping up around 5000 BC. Then, those villages grew into bigger towns, trading hubs, and eventually formed 2 separate kingdoms, Upper Egypt in the south and Lower Egypt in the north. But then in 3200 BC, the king of Upper Egypt conquers the north, unites the whole thing, and boom, you've got this incredibly powerful, united Egypt setting the stage for the giant pyramid building era by 2700 BC. Which brings us to mystery number 2, the god kings and giant stones. Who built these massive monuments? So the rulers in charge of these massive building projects were called pharaohs, and they weren't just kings, they were seen as living gods walking the earth. The Egyptians worshipped like 2,000 different gods, but they actually believed the pharaoh had the magical power to control those Nile floods we just talked about. They also built for eternity. But why are their monuments still standing? I mean, other ancient people, like in the Indus Valley or Sumer, they built big stuff too. The secret? It's all in the materials. The other guys built with mud bricks, which kind of just crumbled back into the dirt over time. But the Egyptians, they used solid stone. They were literally building for eternity. And when I say stone, I mean a jaw-dropping amount of it. 2,300,000. Yeah, 2.3 million. That is exactly how many massive limestone blocks went into building just one single structure, the Great Pyramid at Giza. They had to cut these massive stones in the hills and float them all the way down the river on barges. Just to wrap your head around building the Great Pyramid, it took gangs of 100,000 men working for 20 straight years to finish it, and it's 146 meters tall. But why do all this? Well, the pharaohs built them as giant, super secure tombs to bury themselves and all their incredible treasure for the afterlife. And to keep the grave robbers out, they designed the insides like a crazy maze. I'm talking dead ends, false doors, and actual traps. That naturally leads us to Mystery 3, Secrets of the Mummies. Conquering death. Okay, this part is a little gross, but so cool. The Egyptians believed a spirit, which they called the Ka, needed a physical body to come back to in the afterlife. So, to stop the body from decaying, they invented mummification. Step 1, they take out the brain, the lungs, the liver, and stomach, but they carefully left the heart inside. Step 2, they dry the body out completely by burying it in a special salt for exactly 40 days. Step 3, priests wrap the dried body in tons of linen bandages, sneaking magical charms inside. And get this wild fact, they would actually put a raw onion in the mummy's hand.
Why? Because they thought it was a sign of good health for the afterlife. Then the mummy goes into a painted coffin so the cosbearer could recognize its own face.
Moving right along to Mystery 4, Ancient Hackers. Preserving knowledge.
See, they didn't just preserve bodies. They needed a way to preserve their history and keep track of trade. So they came up with an entirely new writing system, hieroglyphics. Look at the evolution of writing here. Today, you and I only have to memorize 26 letters in the modern alphabet. Piece of cake, right? But the ancient Egyptians, they had to learn over 700 different picture signs. 700. These were little pictures of objects or actions, and because there were so many, it took years of super hard work just to learn how to read and write.
Now, carving 700 picture signs into heavy stone walls isn't exactly portable. So they invented papyrus, the world's very first paper. They made it by taking stems of river reeds, squishing them flat, and weaving them together in a crisscross pattern. Scribes would write on these scrolls with reed pens and ink. And remember that super dry desert air we talked about at the start? It acted like a giant magic force field, preserving these super fragile paper scrolls for thousands of years. It's literally the only reason historians today can still read their secrets.
But here's a crazy story about the lost secret of papyrus. The actual recipe for making it? It was completely lost in ancient times. Nobody had a clue how to do it. Until 1969, when this Egyptian scientist, Dr. Hassan Raghab, decided to crack the code. He actually brought in special plants from Sudan and Ethiopia and started experimenting with them, wait for it, right inside his own bathtub. Yep, thanks to his bathtub science experiments, he finally rediscovered how to make papyrus after it was lost for centuries.
Let's check out our final clue. Mystery 5, Time Travelers, inventions we still use today. These guys were total geniuses, and their ancient tech is still in our modern life. They invented an instrument called a nilometer to measure floodwaters. They created the shadif, which is this clever pole and bucket system used to lift water for farming. People in Egypt and Pakistan still use it today. They were absolute masters of advanced math, which, is kind of necessary for building giant pyramids. Their doctors even figured out how blood circulates in the body. But their absolute biggest flex? They gave us the 365-day calendar, and they divided our day into 24 hours.
Think about that for a second. Can you imagine living a single day without checking the time or looking at a calendar? Every single time you look at the clock to see if it's lunchtime or count down the days to summer vacation, you are literally using ancient Egyptian technology. We owe so much of our daily lives to these brilliant desert innovators. And boom, mystery solved. How did a harsh desert create such a legendary civilization? Well, it was the perfect mix of nature and human genius. The Nile River gave them that rich mud for farming. Their insanely clever engineering gave us stone pyramids that lasted for eternity. Their beliefs gave us mummies and raw onions wrapped in linen. And that dry desert air kept their papyrus paper perfectly safe for 4,500 years. History is just one giant, awesome story filled with mysteries waiting to be solved. And hey, if the dry desert sands protected Egypt's brilliant secrets for 4,500 years, you kind of have to wonder, what are future historians going to dig up about us? What ancient mystery will we uncover next time? You definitely won't want to miss it, so be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and follow along. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and I'll catch you on our next incredible journey into the past.